This is Solid Snake, and you're listening to Gamrz.com. So pay some damn attention.
Give it up for David Hayter.
Hello, welcome. I'm David Hayter. So it's packed. It's not really packed, but clearly the finest group of people at the con gathered right here. So guys, thank you for having me, and thank you to the Alamo City Con for inviting me. And they just said, go out there and talk to people. So I figured, I'd start taking your questions, and anything you want to ask me about, feel free. Sir.
Yes. My question is
Come up to the mic so everybody can hear you.
well, first of all, I just want to congratulate you on completing Wolves, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's coming out November 14th, if I'm not...
That's correct. Wolves is a movie that it's my directorial debut, so it comes out November 14th.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, congrats on making something that doesn't ruin the good name of werewolves.
Well, we'll see. Wait till you see it.
All right, so my question is about the Metal Gear Solid movie.
Yeah, I guess I can. I mean, it's not like they're making my version. So, yeah, so what happened was, I can't remember how long ago it was. It was maybe 10 years ago. I got a call from a producer friend of mine saying, we're doing Metal Gear and you'd be the ideal writer. And I said, I agree. And but then we found out that Konami Japan had made a deal with one producer and Konami US had made a deal with another producer. So I had to go pitch it to the other producer, and I came up with a 20-page pitch, and essentially I wanted to take the story from Shadow Moses Island, from the incident at Shadow Moses, and I don't want to tell you too many details because you never know what happens, and they might, I might come back to do it, or they might sort of steal my ideas, and I don't want to ruin the surprises. But suffice it to say, we were talking about possibly, Hugh Jackman as Snake, because he's a friend of mine, and I feel he would do a pretty good job. And yeah, I was gonna basically introduce the movie-going audience to that Shadow Moses episode. Anybody else? Sir.
How you doing?
Good.
As it relates to the Metal Gear series, were you caught?
I have inside information with the Metal Gear people. I have my spies everywhere, and so I knew that they were doing something weird with Snake, or that they were going to have somebody else come in and do something, but they wouldn't give me too much detail. So I heard about Kiefer's involvement when you did, when they made the big announcement. And I was really hoping for like a crappy actor, so that I could just really, tear it to pieces. But I really like Kiefer Sutherland, and I've always been a big fan. So, he's still doing my part, but I don't begrudge him that.
And then, do you see yourself coming back to doing any future work?
As far as coming back goes, it's up to Konami, really, and Mr. Kojima. I would be happy to come back, and I'm very committed to the Metal Gear series and to Snake. It's meant a lot to me. So, yeah, I'll come back if they ask me.
I hope they do. Thanks.
Thanks, Ben.
You're the only Snake.
Thank you. Although technically there are a few snakes, but they're all me. With George Sears, yes, that's right. The president, everybody's Snake, really. We're all Snake on the inside.
Spoilers.
Spoilers, yeah. Yes, you in the blue.
Like, Act 5 of Metal Gear Solid 4, had you...
Spoilers. Towards the end of Metal Gear 4, Big Boss meets Solid Snake, who has been cloned from him. You know, a lot of people say, oh, it makes sense that they'd have different voices, but I always argue that they're clones, so they have identical vocal cords. Like, I sound very similar to my father. He's very snaky in his own way. But how would I have done it? Well, the difference between the two characters is that they were both old, but Solid Snake was diseased. You know, his body was falling apart. So I would have tried to come up with an older voice for Big Boss that still had some strength to it, where by the end of Metal Gear 4, you know, old Snake was falling apart and his larynx wasn't all together anymore. So I'd have probably done Big Boss a little more. I don't know, I haven't worked on it, but I'd have tried to make them different. That would be my job. Thank you. You in the armor.
Oh, yes. Just want to say, obviously, long-time Metal Gear Solid fan.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Also, Guyver, I remember that as a kid.
Yeah, Guyver, yeah. That was a movie I did in 1993. It was a little sci-fi film, and I met my wife on that film, so I was a big fan. Yeah, she was a sexy archaeologist. Sorry.
I guess my biggest question for you is, there's a lot of zany dialogue that Kojima comes...
Well, there was a lot of that. You know, that's sort of the fun of the Metal Gear series, is that it is really crazy in places. There's an exchange with Drebin, and I can't remember who says it. Is it me or him that says that he had a dream about a poop monster?
No, that wasn't Drebin, that was Sigint.
Oh, Sigint. And was it Sigint who had the dream?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so... Oh, shit tank, yes.
It was a shit tank that shot shit that would transform other things into shit, that would then transform other things into more shit, then developing the entire world into one big ball of shit.
Yeah, so
Kind of like a Cybermen from Doctor Who, they just kind of collective people, they Borg kind of thing, they just go out into the galaxy and would make everything shit.
Right. So I would say that was a big, that was an eyebrow raiser, certainly. You know, people ask me a lot if love can bloom on a battlefield, and I'm like, I don't think it could, but maybe, you know. So, yeah, I don't know, I can't think of any others. What's your favorite weird line? Anybody? Mission failed? Crab battle. Oh my God, hotness, I want to bang you. I'm sorry to any children in the audience. Hurt me more. I remember that punch.
I was wondering if you could...
All right, that's enough. Settle down.
I was wondering if you could talk about the first time you met with...
You know, people are always asking about my relationship with Kojima. I barely know him. I mean, he's never there when we're doing the English language versions of the game. The first time I met him was when we were doing the first game, and he came to LA and he had a Guyver poster for me to sign. And then he gave me a gift. It's a very Japanese tradition. And, you know, so, I mean, I've probably met him 5 times, 6 times. Yeah, I mean, we're not terribly close, you know, but I respect his work. I mean, the games and the gameplay and the world that he's created is really stunning to me. So I've always been impressed with that, but I've never really gotten a chance to hang out. So. Sir?
A couple of years ago, there was...
Yeah, it just, it takes a while to get these things going. So Wolves was initially a Dark Hero project, but then it ended up a Canadian film, so I had to create a Canadian company to do that. This is sort of boring inside baseball film stuff. But I'm just now signing a deal to direct another film that I want to have the Dark Hero logo, and I'm producing a mini-series at Fox called World War III. So, those projects are starting to come to fruition. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hi, David.
Doctor.
In any other case, my question is, in all the years that you were involved directly with the series, doing the voice...
Yeah, well, sometimes we would record out of order, and I wouldn't get the scripts in advance, so there were times when I was a little lost, and but if you're doing your job as an actor and you're lost, you ask the director, Chris Zimmerman, and she'd check with the producers, and I'd say, okay, who is this, and what's my relationship to them, and then they'd tell me, and I'd hear all these things. I mean, for the longest time, I thought Eva was my mother, and then it turned out to be Ocelot's mother, and I'm like, how is that possible? Like, I don't know what's happening there. But the really deep issues, the speeches, war has changed, private military companies, eugenics, all those things. Kojima's so good at being on the forefront of what's coming. And, the things I describe in Metal Gear 4 are all happening. And we talked about the human genome in the first Metal Gear, and it was 10 years later that we mapped it, So, I grasped early on that we were dealing with, with real issues, with very cool, sort of morality takes on war and battle and soldiers who get thrown into the middle of this machine and give up their lives for things that might not be the reasons that they're told, And so I've met so many soldiers here today and yesterday, a lot of Air Force people, and one of them just told me the thing that I fear the most, which is I became a soldier because of Solid Snake. And I'm like, I'm honored and I appreciate their service, but I don't want anybody getting killed because I'm prancing around in a digital playground, I feel kind of bad about that. So anyway, but yeah, I was always very cognizant of the heaviness of the games and how seriously they took those issues. What's that? Oh yeah. Yes. No, yeah, I don't pay attention to other actors' lines. That's not true.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're the only snake.
You're one of many Doctor Who's. Captain America.
Mr. Hayter, big fan.
Thank you.
Had the chance to talk to you yesterday about what your favorite Metal Gear Solid was, and it was everyone's favorite, Metal Gear Solid 3.
Snake Eater.
That's true, but I got the impression that you played the games, and I want to know what your favorite...
Yeah, so, well, the end, that sequence to me blew me away. I just hunting around those massive vistas and you really feel like you're hunting down a sniper and that you're under sniper fire, and to use the directional mic I thought was so clever and cool, and the fact that he'd fall asleep because he was 100, I thought that was funny. So I love that. I love the original Psycho Mantis fight But particularly because I had recorded the dialogue, so I knew you had to change the controller. So I had a lot of inside information when I played it, so it's a lot easier, less frustrating. And Gray Fox, the fight with the ninja, which took me a long time to beat. It was hard, you know. But it was that and Vulcan Raven. I mean, there's a lot of really cool. And I love the fight at Shadow Moses in 4 between Metal Gear Ray and Metal Gear Rex. I think that's awesome. And then finally, the fight with Liquid, where you progress through every different theme from each game as we fight it out for the last time. I thought that was pretty cool.
Awesome.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. Snake.
All right. Like, would you ever like think of making like a YouTube channel or?
Well, I appreciate that, but I wouldn't do that. I mean, it's, you know, it's not my character really. I mean, to a certain extent it is, but to...
You defined it.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. But no, listen, unless, you know, fans have asked me, well, will you do this, or will you do a voice mod for, you know, to replace Kiefer or something, and...
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
No. But I wouldn't
Kickstarter.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do that. I would never take money from the fans to do Snake. I feel like either we do it with Kojima or we don't, you know. So
yeah.
So no, and I'd feel stupid if I was just making YouTube videos as Snake. I feel,
Oh no,
I feel like a knob. So.
Do you think you'll ever in the future like?
Yeah, well, I'd love to do it again. I love the character, but I also feel like Metal Gear 4 was such a beautiful end to it that if that was my run, I'd be very satisfied with that.
And then Revengeance happened.
Yes. All right. Let's move on to the next. Thank you
so much.
Sir.
Mr. Hayter, there's a lot of real-world parallels in the Metal Gear game. Like I think it's Metal Gear Solid 1, talking about DARPA with the DARPA chief, and DARPA is a real organization.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, playing the games, being involved in the games, are you shocked at any real-world parallels?
Yeah, I mean, I was always tripped out by the accuracy and the predictive nature of the games. It's amazing. But I mean, I think Kojima is obsessive about research and figuring out where the world is going. So I think, you know, I mean, I also have to do a lot of research in my other job as a writer to know what our military capabilities are, what the latest technology is, and so, you know, there are ways to sort of predict to a certain extent where the military is going to go, but the accuracy with which he does it is really stunning. So, thanks. Sir.
I know you've done a lot of work other than just this Snake, and I know
No, it doesn't bother me. I mean, it's, you know, it's funny because my two careers are very separate, and people that know me in Hollywood, like producers or studio people, they don't have any idea what Snake is. Some of the younger ones do, but for the most part, they don't put that together. And so, because fans of Metal Gear recognize me from that primarily, I mean, that's great. I don't care what people recognize me for, as long as they appreciate what I'm doing, you know. So, no, it never annoys me anyways. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, David.
Hello.
First, thank you for coming to Alamo City Comic Con and giving us this opportunity to chat with you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, I have a non-Metal Gear Solid question.
What?
I know, right? It's a shocker.
Fantastic.
You know, I was actually a really big fan of an anime series where you voiced the male lead role way back in the day.
Tamahome.
Fushigi Yugi.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of wondering, you know, how did you go from a romantic anime series?
Well, so Yeah, what she's talking about is a show called Fushigi Yugi, The Mysterious Play. Thank you. Yeah, it was like 52 episodes of this crazy Japanese fantasy show, and I played this young romantic warrior named Tamahome. And when I did the movie Guyver, and I was about 23 years old, they were mixing it. They're mixing the sound and the music at a soundstage in the Valley in California, and there was a guy there named Kevin Seymour, and Kevin Seymour was obsessed with bringing anime to the United States, and he's responsible for directing the voice, the English language versions of many of your favorite anime, and so I was hanging out there, and he asked me if I'd like to do some voices, and it was like $50 an hour, and I said, yes, I would like to do that, because I'm very hungry, you know. If you could, you know, are you going to finish that sandwich, sort of situation. And so it was me and Bryan Cranston was there. So we did a bunch of like anime movies together, and we got to do my favorite. I loved Fushigi Yugi, and that was really fun. But my favorite was I did a movie called Lupin III: Castle of Cagliostro. Well, thank you. So we're recording this, and he asked me to play the lead, and so we're recording it. I'm watching. I'm like, this is a really good movie. Like, the sequences are spectacular, and I've never really seen anything like it. And I was like, boy, that director's going places. And then it turned out to be Hayao Miyazaki's first film. And at the time, I didn't even know who Miyazaki was, and later figured that out, and then later found out that I had been the lead in his first film. So that was a very, very cool time of my life. But it was all non-union stuff, and so as I joined the union and became more professional, I had to stop doing that. But actually, Fushigi Yugi, I was still doing when I got the job writing X-Men. So to do the final episodes, we were shooting in Toronto, and I had to fly back. So Friday night, I would hop on a flight, fly to Los Angeles, record Fushigi Yugi on Saturday and Sunday, and then head back Sunday night to Toronto to shoot X-Men. So it's a little grueling.
Well, thank you for doing it, because I'm sure you've made a lot of young girls at that time very happy for voicing him.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I have a daughter, and I always wanted her to see the show, but then, because it was this beautiful romantic tale, and then there'd be this horrible rape scene, or somebody would get their arms chopped off and get beaten to death with it, and so, you know, it's I'm a little conflicted over it. But thank you for saying. Yes, sir.
Hi, Miss. Well, they say that there's a lot of references in Metal Gear to Escape from New York.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if Hideo or somebody told you, like, hey, watch this movie, and
No, nobody ever said that. Nobody had to, because Escape from New York is one of my top 10 favorite films. I watch it once a year, at least. I'm just a massive fan of that movie. So I knew the references, but I was kind of concerned we were going to get sued. So I tried to not make him Kurt Russell's Snake Plissken. Like his... Call me Snake. It sounds like Snake when I do it, but you know, he's a lot more whispery than gravelly per se. So yeah, I tried to separate it a little bit so we didn't all get sued.
Did you like Escape from LA?
That was a movie that happened, yeah.
One last thing. Can you say like liquid? Liquid! Thank you. Thank you, Sutherland.
Okay, so one more question?
I was wondering...
Sorry, Rorschach.
I'm a huge fan of watching
I'll come down.
And I was wondering if you found any challenges...
Yeah, so I worked on the movie Watchmen, wrote the screenplay for that, and I spent 9 years. We had it at 4 different studios. They asked me to make it a buddy comedy between Rorschach and Dan at one point. They asked me to cut the blue guy, put pants on him. Yeah, I mean, it was very, very difficult to get a studio to understand what that movie was. And it really was not until Zack Snyder had his hit with 300 and was able to make the movie the way he wanted to. You know, we needed a director who had that kind of power and heat behind him. So, yeah, many, many challenges, but it all worked out. Thank you guys. Listen, for all of you who have been waiting, I'll come down or I'll meet you in the hall and I'll answer your questions. Thank you so much for having me, guys. And thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I love you all.